What is functional testing? Functional testing basically means that you're looking at the function of an individual or an organ instead of just looking at its structure. So you're not just taking a picture of it while it's resting, you're taking pictures of it while it's doing something. So an example of functional testing would be a stress test. A cardiac stress test would be a situation where you get on a treadmill, you're hooked up to some wires that are recording what your heart is doing as you're exercising, and we challenge the heart and then see what it looks like when it's being challenged. And it makes a lot of sense to do that kind of testing for a lot of things in medicine, because a lot of things can look normal when you're not stressing them, but as soon as you stress the system, then we find out that, hey, this guy's just barely functioning, but because he's watching his activities, is not really showing that much. Another example would be, say, wearing an oxygen monitor. And when you're resting, your oxygen may be 99, 100%, but as soon as you walk across the room, it drops down to 90%. That means that your lungs were really bad to begin with. It's just we weren't able to show it because you were sitting all the time. Another example of functional testing is what's called a PET scan of the brain, where they inject a type of sugar into the blood vessels, and that sugar goes into the brain, and once it goes into the brain, it stays there for a long time. And so then we can take pictures of the brain and see what parts of the brain are picking up sugar and what parts are not. The equivalent of this for fatigue would be something like having a certain amount of exercise that an individual does, and then measuring the lactic acid levels in their bloodstream after they do a standardized amount of exercise. But no one has ever come up with exactly what that is, and to standardize it and see how much lactic acid someone is producing when they become active. Another part of doing functional testing would be actually to induce lytic activation of viral infections, and then be able to measure and see, okay, if we do stimulate the system, which virus is it or which bacteria is it that becomes active? And then, you can also do the same thing with cytokines and lymphokines, chemokines, and be able to tell what is really the underlying stress, even though it may not be quite apparent at the moment that we are doing the tests.